Hello, good people, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Design and a Half. Today's Friday, which means we're going to take it a little bit easier than we normally do, and we're going to talk a little bit about gaming. Why I chose this specific subject is because I personally love games, and I know a lot of people who are both designers, developers, project managers, and basically work in the IT industry quite a lot, and they all love games. So, what is it about games that makes them so appealing, and why do even adults keep playing? Well, basically, I think it's a combination of factors. From my personal experience, it's because they are engaging, they are fun, and especially for people like me who have a high competitivity factor to them. Gaming is a really good outlet for letting out a lot of energy, for trying out new stuff, and for basically trying to see how you measure yourself up against others who are the same as you. But how does this sort of relate to design if you think about it? Well, it's quite simple. Design is problem solving, and what gaming is essentially all about is also about problem solving. And it's mostly about solving a problem in a really creative way, because the difference between games and real life applications is the fact that games are real life applications without the constraints added to them, in the sense that you can solve a problem in four or five different types of ways. However, in real life, you don't have the same luxury. At the same time, games teach you to think outside the box and be creative, even if at some point you get really frustrated. And why I'm saying this is because I'm one of those people that gets frustrated really easy in games, mostly because I'm sort of always trying the same thing, and if it's not working, I think it's because I'm not good enough, and I'm just trying to perfect my way of doing the same thing over and over again. And eventually, obviously, it works, just because I'm changing ever so slightly some of the variables involved into the gameplay. Other times, if I see if it's not working, my personal approach to this is to just say, okay, no problem, this is not fun anymore. I'm going to take a breather, I'm going to make a pause and just step back from this game and do something else entirely, like absolutely anything else. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it's not played that specific game. And what this taught me is to basically back away from a situation that I feel uncomfortable with, especially considering design, take a step back, think about it, and then come back with a different perspective about the problem after talking with other people, after getting some more information. This actually depends. But this is roughly why I'm basically doing this. And this was something I picked up while gaming, because it was often the case when difficulty is stacked against you and the odds are not in your favor, so you have to rely both on your skill as a player as well as your creative thinking. And this is basically where designers really shine, if you think about it, in company environments, in situations where problems are difficult, they are challenging, they have many unknowns, they have many limitations, and so on and so forth. Another thing I really like about gaming is it teaches you to work well with others, especially if you're thinking about MMOs. And MMOs are especially important in this talk, just because they teach you a lot of coordination with other people. They teach you how to collaborate with other people, and this skill directly ties into your other skills that you have as a designer and that you need as a designer, and that is communication and teamwork. And incidentally, I know quite a lot of really good designers out there who are also quite big players too. So they're really involved into the gaming scene, and what the gaming scene actually teaches you is that there's a lot of information that comes from outside of the gaming world, which is the business world, which influences the gaming world. And this is how some people who design and also do UX understand concepts about business by being in a real life economy situation, by sort of understanding the links between items, prices, and demand, and understanding how these market dynamics work in a real life scenario. And this is why I think games are so useful. Plus, another thing which I directly saw into my own kids is the fact that they develop digital knowledge at a considerably faster rate than a normal adult or a child of the same age that hasn't been sort of exposed to technology and games. And the reason for that is because games have this tendency to incite your brain and to agitate your neurons so that they find solutions, and they are in constant movement, which means you never have room to tire out your brain, because it's constantly moving, it's constantly flexing itself. It's basically just like a muscle that is always working out. And there's also been a lot of studies with regards to the fact that games help people prevent Alzheimer's settling in, just because games basically keep your focus on something specific, and this helps quite a lot with the onset of Alzheimer as a disease. So from that perspective on, I think a lot of the current negativity around the fact that games aren't so good for people, and especially for young children's development, should be rather seen a bit more skeptically, because it's not entirely true. To some extent, they can end up overdoing their share of digital information, their share of digital access to the world beyond, obviously, like basically any other person. However, if you think about it, this could also happen to an adult. And there's plenty of cases of people who actually went on and just binged out on games and stuff like that, and ended up either in rehab or ended up on the street because they sold their house or whatnot. And on the other hand, it's all about self-control and sort of trusting your child, and at the same time educating them to make good choices, I think. Because you as a parent, I don't think you can actually control them to a certain degree. You can just rear them and just guide them into a specific direction. You just can't control them. That's now not how it works. And my wife has also been very supportive of this, especially considering the children, and she also was very supportive with regards to them apprehending digital knowledge. And this is clearly seen right now, because here in Romania, what's going on is that most of the classes that children take part in are online classes. And my son being in more or less first grade, it's not necessarily first grade, but this is just a technicality. Let's assume it's first grade, okay? Him being in the first grade, they are being exposed to technology right from the start, which means that if you already had some exposure to technology prior, you already have an advantage with regards to your ability to handle technology and the way you're going to look technology within your life. You're just going to see it as an integral part of your life, not necessarily as an intrusion. Whereas I've seen other children who are more reluctant to use technology and are sort of not as digitally literate, just because their parents are really restrictive of how much consumption of digital media is being done in their house, how much games are being used, and basically those parents are a bit more conservative in this term, in this regard. But I think from my point of view, I think we all do our best to some extent, and I'm not really judging them that they don't allow their kids to do this or that, because basically it's their child. I think each parent has their own view on things, and to some degree that also reflects itself into the upbringing of the child that's being brought to school. Getting back to the games though, my son is also really a huge fan of Fortnite. He plays Fortnite quite often, and he's pretty decent for a 6-year-old kid. I'm actually impressed on how good he is at handling first person shooters, and the way he approaches stuff so casually. He doesn't see it sort of like we see it as a means to an end, but rather sees it as a competition. He's more into this side of competition rather than anything else. However, this also could be due to the fact that he is the bigger brother, and the smaller brother is usually the darling of the family. So the older brother sort of always compensates for that by just trying to hog attention to himself. That's what's usually going on. Yeah, about games in design, I think games have always actually influenced design in a lot of ways, and especially now in the latest 10 years and even more perhaps. I think gaming gaming itself has pushed the digital world as we see it far into the future, even more so than it used to be, just because a lot of the technology that has been used in games has also been used in other applications as well. For example, if you're thinking about graphics cards who were originally developed just for games and for video editing, have also been used right now, are being used, for example, for neural networks, are used for image detection, are used for all sorts of really cool applications. And I think in that respect, gaming has earned itself sort of a seat at the table of technology, as a sort of a big stakeholder, if you want to. And it's probably going to stick there for quite some time, due to how much games have been growing in the latest, and especially with Steam and with platforms like Steam, like Epic Games and so on. All of those are promoting games more and more, and the industry itself is growing. So there's a definite need for games, and people are definitely reflecting that into their purchases as well, since sales have been growing exponentially lately, especially considering now that we also have this pandemic. This also accelerated the process. And even going further, think about the technology around virtual reality. That was sort of intended as an entertainment piece of tech. However, it ended up being more than that, just because it actually has a lot more applications than just gaming. Think about medicine. Think about design, but rather mechanical design and product design, because in that specific instance, you can take out a VR kit, put it on your head, and start actually creating really amazing designs and products and physical shapes right into a virtual environment, and then just launching them over to a 3D printer and just having something really fast in that particular instance. If you're talking about medicine, think about the applications it has on not needing actual human corpses to teach dissections on, but to use digital corpses. That's really amazing. Like it basically eliminates the need for having humans as a sort of byproduct to be used in a scientific purpose. And this means that there's more opportunities, for example, for how's that called, organ donors, to be able to help other people out just by having more opportunities to donate and so on and so forth, which is in some cases beneficial. And at the same time, it's sort of easier for the people who aren't necessarily so keen on working with corpses, for example. Like there's a lot of students who don't go to medicine and don't study medicine just because they are not necessarily okay with corpses, and to some extent I understand them, just because not all of the fields that are medicine are destined for having to deal with blood or internal tissues and so on. It actually depends on your specialization. Sorry, that was hard. But yeah, I definitely think that's how sort of gaming has brought a lot of value to our lives as well, and I'm pretty sure it's going to add even more value in the future, because a lot of the technology that's being used in games has also been found to be used outside of them, and is even it's growing even as we speak. That was it for today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the thumbs up or subscribe or share with a friend, whatever you fancy. At the same rate, I really thank you for watching this, regardless if you do that or not, and I think you're really awesome. I wish you a pleasant rest of the week, and see you next week. Bye bye, guys.